God, I've been begging, I've been asking, I've been seeking, I've been knocking, and you haven't been showing up. God, I'm done. And you harden your heart. Don't harden your heart because you're impatient. Because God's finest work is while you wait. Let me give you 3 encouragements today. 3 encouragements, real practical handles, okay? Trust God when He says go. Trust God when He says go. Some of you have been waiting a while in God's waiting room, right? You know He's been preparing you, and it's been cloudy. You don't know how it's going to work out, and there's cloudiness. And just the way I describe it in my own life is I'll see and sense a stirring, but the clouds come in. I don't understand it all. I can see, but there's a lot between here and there, and there's clouds. And the clouds, it's hard to know which way to go and where to set the foot, and so you let the clouds be cloudy, because that's what they are, and you just wait on the Lord. But then there's this moment, what happens is the clouds part, and you're like, oh. And it goes from cloudy to clear. When it goes from cloudy to clear, you see it, it seems to make sense, and you know where to put your foot next. When God says go, trust Him. Take a step. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's household. Miraculous story. Remember, he kills somebody and kills an Egyptian and has to flee the land. He flees the land, and as he flees the land, he goes to Midian, and he just figures out, well, this is going to be my life. I grew up in a palace, but now I am going to be tending sheep. And so he just settles in and chooses contentment, and he takes a wife and has a family, and he's a shepherd for 40 years. He does a lot of waiting as a shepherd. David did a lot of waiting as a shepherd. But God appears to Moses in a burning bush, and He says to him, hey, Moses, I want to do something with your life. It's time to go. It's time to go. When God says go, listen, trust is required. We saw this last week as Moses was fretting and Moses is throwing up excuses. Let's look at it again in verses 10 and 11 of Exodus 3. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. I have a greater purpose for your life and what I'm going to do with your life. That's often why God says go, because He sees further, farther, and greater. And He wants to use you in His grand plan. And I can just see Moses looking around like, you got the wrong guy. Moses says, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? Friends, for some of you, God's been saying it's time. It's time to go. It's time to take that step. It was cloudy. It's now clear. Now is when I want you to move. You're going to have to trust Him. You have to put the full weight of your life on the Lord. The covenant-keeping God who knows your heart, sees your needs, hears your cries, comes down to meet you and to bring you into a new land. When God says go, trust is required. And He does it for a greater purpose, His glory, His renown. Second encouragement. Don't just trust God when He says go, trust God when He says slow. Trust God when He says slow. Some of you have been waiting a while, and the waiting continues. That's what I mean by slow. You have to continue to wait. David says in verse 25, I have been young and now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous forsaken, or their children begging for bread. When God calls you to wait longer, trust is required. I said this in the 11 o'clock service last week. I want to say it again. Here's the struggle. Here's the temptation when you find yourself waiting and still waiting when God says slow. The temptation is you harden your heart. God, I've been begging, I've been asking, I've been seeking, I've been knocking, and you haven't been showing up. God, I'm done. I've been asking you to change him. I've been asking you to change her. and I'm stuck here. I can't do it. You need to do it. Why won't you do it? And you harden your heart. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says this, above all else. In other words, this is the highest priority. Above all else, guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life. Don't harden your heart because you're impatient. Because God's finest work is while you wait. And you feel stuck there, and then you harden your heart. What do? You keep yourself from thinking He's going to change that person or that situation or what have you, and you keep Him from changing you. You're like, I've concluded you're not going to do anything, so. And you take back control. What are you going to do? Then you're going to fret. Then you're going to burn. Then you're going to be bound with anxiety. Again, maybe it's just me because I can trust Him in the morning and by the evening time grab hold of it again, right? So just do not harden your heart, because the hard heart is the impenetrable, is a wall that cannot be penetrated. I tried to say that and it didn't come out well. Is your God big enough? Strong enough? Mighty enough? Does He hear your cry and see your affliction and know your pain? And has He in the past come down to meet with you and take you into a new land? He can do it again. Don't harden your heart. Keep trusting Him. Put your full weight, keep your full weight there. Don't stop waiting. Wait on the Lord with your full weight. When God says, slow, don't try to take control. We see this in Joseph's life. Here's the thing about Joseph. If you read his story, Jacob's favored son wore the coat of many colors. He got this vision, you're going to bow before me. He didn't steward that well, because you notice it created hatred in the lives of his brothers, and he got rebuked by his father at the second time he shared it. Who Joseph was when he received that vision and who he was when it was fulfilled, two very different people. And all we know of Joseph's life is struggle and suffering and difficulty and waiting. He's thrown into a pit and sold into slavery. Then he works for a guy named Potiphar. Foreign language, foreign land, and now he's enslaved. There's no freedom. But something happened in Joseph's life. This is a great place. This waiting place is a place of attitude adjustment, attitude calibration. Joseph submitted to the authority in his life, and he's like, well, I better make the most of this. And what does the Word of God say? And the Lord was with Moses, and whatever he did, he prospered, so much so that that Potiphar didn't have to worry about anything in his household. So he found a way to rise to the ranks in slavery. He rose to the top. Then he's accused of rape. He's thrown into a prison. And he's in that prison. He's like, what am I doing here? But he's like, well, I'm going to make the most of this prison. And he worked, and Joseph had the gift of administration. And he served in such a way that the captain of the prison guard didn't have to worry about anything but what he ate and drank. Because Joseph was that good, and the Lord's favor was on Joseph. The grace of God favored his life, and he made the most of that season, that situation, being in prison. But there was this moment, because he interpreted the dreams, the dream of the baker and the cupbearer. Y'all remember the dreams? There's this moment when Joseph tries to take control because he got tired of waiting. The cupbearer has a dream. He says, okay, well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to do this, and you're going to be restored, and sorry, buddy, you're done. And then he says something to the cupbearer, very interesting. It's Genesis 40, verse 14. Only remember me when it is well with you. And please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. Like you're going to be in front of Pharaoh. He's the one guy that can change the course of my life. Would you please remember me? And the cupbearer did not remember him. He had to wait for 2 more years. Verse 23, yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. See, God needed more development in Joseph's life for those 2 more years. There was something, there was a rough edge still. He needed him. You don't want to take something out of the oven until it's fully baked. You take it out when it's fully, when it's not fully baked, it just misses the mark. And this plan that God had for Joseph's life, vital, very important. So if you find yourself waiting and trying to kick the doors open in your life and they stay shut, guess what? You need to bake a little longer. It's okay. Be still before the Lord. Trust in Him. Wait patiently for Him. The third encouragement that I would give you as we come near our conclusion time is this. Trust God when He says no. Trust God when He says no. Some of you have been waiting a while. You've been praying. You've been asking. You've been seeking. You've been knocking. And you get the same answer. No. No. Trust is required when a no is given. Do you know that? The Apostle Paul was told no. Notice this in 2 Corinthians 12, 7 and 8. So to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given to me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. No, I'm not releasing you from that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that struggle. I'm going to use that suffering. Lean on me, Paul. Trust in me, Paul. My grace is sufficient for you, Paul. Jesus was told no. 3 times He pleaded with the Father, take this cup from me, the cup of the wrath of God. But what did Jesus pray? How do we see His trust? He made this statement, but not my will, but your will be done. Trust. Sometimes God's going to tell you no. Will you trust Him? Or do you harden your heart? So let's get real practical for just a moment. It's the 3rd time we're going to ask you the question. I don't want anybody to move, okay? So orchestra, don't come yet. When I pray, you can start to come, okay? But would you bow your head with me and ask this question a 3rd time? Lord, in what area of my life am I not trusting you? Be still before the Lord.